Curious XM 125, the Patriot Channel. Okay, against my better judgment, we are going to take our troll caller. Let's see if we can get something substantive out of him today. He's called in today under Winston in Washington on line one. Mr. Troll, how are you, sir?
I'm good. And rather than using troll, what would be more accurate would be
You're a
the
troll.
guy who calls me with questions that are uncomfortable and I don't like to answer. How's that for the name?
You're a troll, but that's okay. Do you have something substantive for us today?
Oh, a number of things. The
What?
first is I almost fell out of my chair while driving my seat. Boy, you've been a little critical of Donnie. If I can give you some career advice, Donnie doesn't like people that are mean, unfair, and vicious. I tell you, keep this up
I'm
for
not
another
being
week or two.
unfair or vicious. I'm being substantive
Well,
and
you're being
serious. Like,
no, no, no. That's not allowed in MAGA, Matt. That's not
who said that's
allowed.
not?
You're going to be work.
That's not. No, no, no. That's that. We've always done that. And if you go back throughout our last 15 years of doing this, during the Trump term and the first term and the aftermath of that, we've always been serious on this stuff, right? Like, and so
You're
no,
being very.
if I think something's off, I'll criticize it. And so, by the way,
You're
Mr.
being
Troll,
very.
I'm glad you admit
You're.
that we're willing to call out the White House when we think they're wrong on something, right? Or when we
You're.
think they need to do something better. So I'm glad you're
You're
willing to
being
admit it.
very. That's very unloyal. He's not going to like that. But I have one policy
My
comment,
job
and
is not to be loyal. My job is to be a journalist to cover the administration, right? Like, and that's what we're doing.
but
But
no, but
anyway, go
that's
ahead.
you're being sensible and rational. But that's not how it works in MAGA world.
Whoa,
I
you
have
call
one.
me sensible and rational? My gosh, wow, that's impressive.
I
But
I
anyway,
have
go ahead,
one.
troll.
I have
Yep.
one comment on policy, one comment on your
Okay.
show regarding policy. I think it's great that Trump is rounding up these vicious Venezuelan gang members. That's great. Send them to Mars, send them to Jupiter, send them to an El Salvadoran prison. Who cares? However,
Wait,
more
so
and
hold
more
on. You're
stories are
agreeing
coming
with the
out.
president. You're seriously agreeing with the president? You're
Why
supporting.
wouldn't I? Why?
Okay.
No, I'm
Okay.
for violent
That's good.
criminals on our
But
streets, man.
this is like that like broken clocks are right twice a day thing, right? Like this is impressive.
Matt,
Okay.
let me
So
tell
you've
you,
called me
I'm
hold
not a
on, hold on,
Democrat.
hold on. I gotta recap, Mr. Troll. You've called me sensible and rational today, right? Like, and now you're agreeing with President Trump on one of his core signature policy items. But anyway, go ahead. What's your broader point on the policy?
Yeah, and guess what? I'm not a Democrat, but 99% of Dems would agree with that. You think AOC or Schumer want violent criminals running around the streets? No, they don't. Just like you guys don't. Okay, but with that
But they don't
said,
do anything
more
about
and
it.
more story, more and more stories are coming out that a handful of non-violent, non-criminal Venezuelans are now sitting and rotting, probably for the rest of their lives, in an El Salvadoran jail. So my question is, as a society, are we willing to make the trade-off to get rid of 250 despicable, violent criminals? But it's collateral damage if a few non-violent, non-criminal people, yeah, they kind of get caught in the net, and yeah, they're in an El Salvador jail now. Is that kind of what we've become?
But hold on, say that question, the second part of that question again.
Are you okay with getting 250 violent criminals off the streets and put in El Salvadoran jails, even though they're Venezuelan? But yeah, four or five people that didn't do anything wrong but have a tattoo that was misconstrued, or they were in the wrong place at the wrong
No, I'm
time.
not okay with that.
Yeah, they got.
No, 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 no. But I don't have evidence of that's the case with any of the people that are there. So
Well,
like, look,
start paying attention to the news. Start paying attention to the news, Matt,
well,
because
I
that's
have
what's
to see
going
it.
on.
I haven't seen a story to that
You
effect.
think
But
Tom Holt?
if they have put someone there in Venezuela or in El Salvador in prison that is just a regular run of the mill illegal alien or something that is not a violent criminal, Trinidad gang member, etc., then that is a different question altogether. And so in
Good. Then we
the
then we agree.
Yeah, no, that's by the way, that's
But
but
if you
there's a
think Tom,
yeah.
if you think Trump and Tom Homan give a rat's you know what about that scenario, you're kidding yourself. Okay,
Well,
but
look,
yeah,
I
go
do
read
think
the
that
news.
any run-of-the-mill illegal alien should be brought out of the country, right? Like, so I do
That's
support
fine.
deporting them,
I have
but
no
they should
problem
go
with
back
that.
to their country
I
of
have no
origin.
problem
But
with that.
right, they go back to
Yeah,
their
they
country of
shouldn't be.
origin. So, right,
Yes,
like, no.
yes.
By the way, okay, this is
Not
like
in an El
this is
Salvadoran
Mr.
jail.
Troll. This is broken clock day. This is broken clock day, right? Like, so we're on the same page, brother. This is impressive,
Good. All
right?
right. So
Like, I'm
here's my
okay.
last
So
here's my
what's your
last
last
comment
point?
before
Go,
you cut me
okay,
off.
go, because
Well,
we've already been going
it's
for 5 minutes. So go ahead.
it's regarding your show. I know you only like
Hmm.
MAGA sycophants as guests on your show. All
That's
right.
not true.
You
I'll
want
have
Congress.
anybody on. I'll have any
Uh,
member of Congress on. I will have any governor in America on. I will have anyone in the president's cabinet on. I've had Democrats
good.
on this show over the years. I take your call every time you call in.
They're
Have I never not taken
they're
your
far
call?
they're far and few between, and not in terms of taking my call, but having non-MAGA guests. But I know some
I
people
would
that
love
work
to
for
have
the
them. They won't
Bulwark.
do it. They won't do it.
All right. Well, hey,
Right? Like,
I'm gonna help you. I don't know any politicians, but I know people that work for a really good center right, Never Trump website. I'm sure you've heard of it, the Bulwark. What if I got some guys from the Bulwark who are willing to come on your show as a guest?
I would love to have them come on. Yeah, tell them to come on. Tell them to
You
reach
would.
out to me.
You'd have never.
I'd
You would
have
have
them
Never
on.
Trumpers on your
I'd have
site.
them on. I'm not going to agree with them on everything, but like I would have a
No,
substantive
but they could.
conversation and debate with them, right? Like, by the way,
Those
I think
guys
that's
are.
a good thing,
Those guys are a
Mr.
thousand.
Troll.
Those
Why
guys
do
are
I?
a thousand times better than me at doing this.
But why do you think I take your call every week? I always say this because I think it's important that we have a
Well,
conversation about this stuff, and I also think that I think that it's important that we show people what people think about this stuff. It's the same thing why I take all the liberal callers whenever they call. Right, like I will talk to them. By the way, I have had Democrats on this program. I've had conversations with Democrats on Capitol Hill. I've offered them a standing invitation with several different congressional Democrats. Several different
all
congressional
right, good.
Democrats. They have a standing invitation. Any member of Congress, sitting member of Congress, right now has a standing invitation to come on this program. From
Yeah.
AOC
I
to
don't want
Chuck
to hear.
Schumer to Liz Warren to
I don't want to hear.
any of them.
Look.
Uh,
I'm not a
yeah,
Democrat, so I'm not interested in hearing the Dems on there. But I would be very interested in hearing Never Trumpers like me, Never Trump GOPs that
I
can
would be
do
happy to have them.
and
I'll have them, and we'll
articulate.
talk about it because I
Good.
think they lost the war. So, but the fact is that look, but that doesn't mean we have to be sycophantic for Trump either. I'm not sycophantic for Trump. You just literally just said it to me, right? Like, so I've always
Well,
been willing to
98%,
talk. But 98% of the time
95% of
he's
the
right,
time.
right? Like
Yeah,
95% of
please,
the time he's right,
Matt.
right? Like, so the
Matt, keep this up, and you're going to be the Liz Cheney of conservative radio.
oh, baloney, baloney, absolute baloney,
Please
right? Like absolute
wake
baloney.
up.
Because,
Come on.
like, look, I'm sensible enough that I can say when he's right, and I'm sensible enough that I can call him out when I think he's making a mistake, like giving F-35s to Erdogan,
Keep
right? Like,
keep
so
this up, and you're
the
going to be hanging out with Adam Kinzinger.
I'm not hanging out with Adam Kinzinger. That's not happening. So, like, no
You're
way.
on. You're
I
on that
think he
path.
went the wrong
You're on
way.
that path if you keep this up.
No, not even
You're
close.
being
Not even
very mean
close.
and
He
vicious.
he went full blown never Trump. The fact is that you know what's crazy? Like, okay, I think that Donald Trump is right about tariffs and reciprocal tariffs in particular. Okay, I think that he's right about how China ruined took advantage of the West over the course of the last 20 something, 30 something years. It has raided and pillaged our industrial Midwest. I think he's right about war and a skepticism with regard to war that exists all throughout the United States after especially Afghanistan and Iraq. But really, it goes back even
I'm
deeper
glad.
than that,
I'm glad.
right?
By the way, I'm glad of your. I'm glad that you criticized Trump over his love of Erdogan. But Matt, where have you been? Don't you know all autocrats that Donnie gets? I get along with him just
No,
great.
but
They're
I
very
do
good
think that he's
people.
right about
Victor,
Putin. I think that he's
Vic,
right to pursue
Vic,
an opening of relations with the Russians. I think that the Russians are not the threat.
opening relations or rolling over and playing dead.
But I don't think he's rolling over and playing dead. I think that the Russians are
No,
doing
not at
everything that he
all.
wants.
Not at all.
No, but that's the
Yeah,
difference. See, that's the thing.
he's always
It-
criticizing Putin. You know, he's really putting the pressure on Putin. I tell you, what a great negotiator.
I think that the
Who are you
things that
kidding,
they've
Matt?
already gotten that they've already been able to get here at the as the negotiations are commencing to end the war in Ukraine have already been incredible, right? Like so, and frankly, I
Really?
think that
Have
there are
they?
things. One of the things I asked him about in when we were in the president's private dining room this week, if you read the article that I wrote, I don't know if you read it, right? Like, but you should go read it. I asked him about the Russian seizure of an American company, right? Like, so they've it's been pretty widely publicized that they did this, right? Like that the Russians took several European countries, but then in October, right before the election, right, like right, they probably thought Kamala was going to win even though they were, everybody across the world, the establishment thought that. Um, so as that's happening, they seize this American company just like they did with Carlsberg and Danone, et cetera, right? These European countries companies. So I asked the president about this, and I asked him if he's going to seize or pressure Putin on, as they begin their economic negotiations to rectify this situation with this American company. It's called Glaff Product. It's a canned food maker that's owned by a Universal Beverage, right? We've done lots of stories about this. Now, the president said he hadn't heard about it, but that if he does hear more about it, he would gladly talk to Putin about it, and then he thinks that Putin will be generous about it, right? Like, and I think he's right about that,
Matt,
by the way. And I think
if
the
you can't if you can't see that Donnie hates our allies and loves all autocrats and our enemies, I probably can't help you. I mean, give me a break.
I don't think that he loves all autocrats. I think that there is a genuine. Do you just
He
hate
exchanged
Vladimir
love
Putin?
letters with Kim
Do you
Jong
think?
Un.
Yeah,
He
but the
he
point is
exchanged
that
love letters with Kim
okay.
Jong Un.
Do you understand why that was going on? Because the Chinese have been
Would he
using
French?
the North
Would he,
Koreans. Well, do you even get this? Like the what's going on in the Pacific Rim? Do you even understand it? By the way, I bet your
yes,
friends at the
I'm
Bulwark would
not.
even agree with me that the North Koreans have
I'm,
been on, a vassal state of the Chinese Communist Party, and that every time China needed a distraction, little rocket man Kim Jong Un would fire up some missiles into the Pacific Ocean, right? Like to distract from whatever's going on in Beijing from the world discussion. And what was Trump was trying to do in the first term. And by the way, I talked with Secretary Pompeo about this, and you probably love that guy, right? Like now he's not back in this term, but I would imagine that Rubio would say the same thing. Trump would say the
he's.
same thing. All of these
I know.
people
Well,
would.
Pompeo's
And what they
very
were,
unloyal. He's been
what they
vicious.
were, what were they trying to do in the first term? And I would imagine they're going to try
He
to do
can
it again, even more so. They were trying to split
he
the
can
North
negotiate,
Koreans off the Chinese and get them to not.
and that's fine. And
You're
that's
okay.
fine. But
I've
You
given you
don't.
more
One
time
last
than I
thing.
normally do, Mr.
You don't
Troll.
boast.
Eh,
You don't
Broken
boast
clock
about
day.
exchanging
It's
love
broken
letters
clock
with
day.
a sociopathic.
I don't think that you're totally misconstruing what happened here, right? Like you're totally misconstruing. I think that what happened there is that it's great sound U.S. foreign policy to try to split the North Koreans off the Chinese. It just is. So just like they're trying to do with the Russians off the Chinese, right? Like because again, if we don't, then China's going to win. Right, like so. If you want to learn Chinese and speak, move to Beijing and become a communist, then by all means, continue down this road. But the fact is that either the West is going to win or the Chinese are going to win. It's that simple. And all of those steps are designed to try to counter China, right? Like, and so that's what it's about with North Korea, with Russia, with Ukraine, et cetera, et cetera. Everything, what's happening in the Middle East, all about China. Okay, I got to take a break.
I
I've
love
given you more than
President
enough
Xi.
time.
We
I've
had
given
we had a piece of
I've get
chocolate cake.
I, w- Troll. I've given you more than enough time today. I'm sorry, I have to leave it there. Okay, guys, Breitbart News Saturday here. We got to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Sirius XM 125, the Patriot Channel. After this, to our caller lines now. Let's start with Ted. Ted in Delaware on line 2. Ted in Delaware, you're on Breitbart News Saturday. How can we help you today?
How you doing, man? I hope you took a good glass of water after talking to that guy. But you know what? He was debating, and that was rather enjoyable. Believe it or not, that was really enjoyable. And he just
I
don't
think it's
understand that.
important to show people what the Trump derangement syndrome types think. Look, by the way, I don't have to sycophantically agree with Trump on everything. I agree with Trump on a lot of things, right? Like, and when he's right, I'm going to say so. But when he's wrong, and I think he is on this turkey thing, right? Like, then we can agree to disagree. That's fine,
Young
right?
man,
Like, and so,
that's
th- yeah,
no, that's why you've been doing it as long as you got. Now he look, you got to agree to disagree, and I think that's what you was trying to say. Trump is not
yeah.
this type of person that's not going to do it. In fact, you make him stronger when you disagree with the right disagreeable things.
To Susan in Pittsburgh on line 4. Susan in Pittsburgh, you're on Breitbart News Saturday. How can we help you today?
Hey Matt, nice to talk to you again.
Likewise.
Before I get to what I wanted to talk about Jasmine Crockett, let me just say you have the patience of a saint. I hear that guy every week call in, and he makes me sick to my stomach. And you know what it is? It's the way he goes about it. I guarantee you, the guy's a narcissist because I've known a few. And he just
Sure.
has to
Look,
dig in there with
I
that
don't mind
with that
having a
voice.
conversation with an honest liberal, right? Like, but like, I mean, the
Right,
fact is that the
exactly.
guy calls in under a fake name and state every time. He calls in with fake numbers every time. And then he misrepresents stuff and then he comes at it in a way that's like gotcha-y and confrontational. But you guys hear, I'll take the
Yeah.
liberal callers all the time. And by the way, I'm going to tell you right now, I not only do I offer a standing invitation, if Gavin Newsom wants to come on this show, I know he's out there doing all these conservative media things and everything now. I'd love to have him on, right? Let's go to Sal in New York on line 5. Sal in New York, you're on Breitbart News Saturday. How can we help you today?
Hey, good morning, Matt. I'll be quick. I know you got some callers there. But that troll, you call him a troll, he is as much a liberal as John Kasich is a conservative. What's essentially happened in the last decade is there are now 4 parties, and some of us have been begging for this for years. Now you've got the 2 wings of the Republican Party, you've got the MAGA Party, and then you got the traditional George Bush, John Kasich party. And in the
Mm-hmm.
Democrats, you've got your moderate Democrats and you've got your AOC progressive wing. And you got a bunch of the Democrats right now that are right where we were during the Tea Party movement where, hey, which way do I go? What benefits my political career more so? So this is what's evolving right now. And if you told me that there were going to be 4 parties that are going to be able to legitimately run for president in 2028, well, I would say the MAGA party will win hands down.
Let's go now to Maureen in North Carolina on line 4. Maureen, you're on Breitbart News Saturday. How can we help you today?
Hi, this is to the Never Trumper who called. I'd like to ask that he consider that Trump has to create a good relationship with these bad leaders, these bad guys like North Korea and Russia, because he's looking at the strategic level, the end game, and the second and third order effects of his decisions. You have to show respect, or else, we would get nowhere. He would get nowhere. You got to win the hearts and minds. If he was just disrespectful to them and treated them bad and called them names, it's just going to harden their hearts, so we're going to get nowhere with them. Also, about the violence.
Georgia, North Dakota on line 3. Georgia, North Dakota, you're on Breitbart News Saturday. How can we help you today? Yep. Let's go to George in North Dakota on line 3. George in North Dakota, you're on Breitbart News Saturday. How can we help you today?
Matt, I'm just going to skip the pleasantries because we have a lot of people on call. But you've talked to the troll about people who are innocent but are getting deported. Here's one example. Jersey Barrios. He is a Venezuelan soccer player. He was detained and is going to be, if not already been deported, to El Salvador for no other reason than he had a tattoo of the Venezuelan soccer team. There's also another incident where a young girl, a 10-year-old girl, was getting chemo for brain cancer, and she got deported to Mexico in the middle of her treatment. These are the people who are innocent, who are getting deported in this whole deportation.
Well, they're here in the
business.
country illegally?
Now, It doesn't matter if they're in the soccer player.
They're not innocent if they're in the country illegally, right? The
The
question is
soccer
whether or
player
not
wasn't in the country illegally. He was here
right?
visiting, but they thought he was a gang member.
Okay,
And the
I don't know
10-year-old
this
girl,
facts of this
she was
story. I
in
have
the
to see
middle
this
of
stuff.
getting.
I have to see that stuff. So,
You,
um,
have you been looking? It's everywhere.
I have not
I'm
seen it, so
surprised
I'll have
that
to go out there and look for it. I haven't seen that
USA
stuff.
Today.
Yeah,
Look on
USA
USA
Today.
Today.
Oh, okay, yeah, they're very reliable. Anyway, I'll look into it later, but I have not seen that stuff myself. So, all right, George, thank you for the call. Do you have any other points or? Interview with the Treasury Secretary in which he talks about this, right? Like, and so, and lays out several specific examples. All right, George, I'm going to leave it there because I'm tight on time. I have to take a break, and I got to get in a bunch of other callers that are on the line. So, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. I always like talking to our liberal friends, and I appreciate George more so than the troll because the troll doesn't tell us who he is. At least George is honest about that. So, all right, we're going to take a quick commercial break here on Breitbart News.